It is your favorite CEO, Miss Flo, and this is another episode of Neon Mike where the conversation just glows. I am here with I guess I could call him a legendary status because he is huge in the blerd community. Writer, voice actor, CEO.
It's true.
He doesn't like the title of influencer, but he will use it when it's appropriate.
Indeed.
And of course, here he is, Tony Weaver Jr., everybody.
Hello.
Now, Tony, first of all, thank you so much for being here. We're here at Phantom Comics in DuPont Circle, right above the subway. It's a nice niche spot. And this is not your first time being here. This is like your second time. You were here when Uncommons came out.
Yes.
And you're here promoting your new book, Weirdo.
Yes.
Can you speak a little bit on why you chose Phantom Comics?
So, Phantom Comics is my home comic book shop. When I lived in Washington, D.C., this became the first shop that I spent a lot of time at. There was a point in time where every Friday afternoon I just order a pizza and show up and hang out with whoever was on staff, you know, talk about comics, lose games of Uno, all that stuff. It was a good time. So when I came back to D.C., I said, well, you know where we got to go? We got to be at Phantom.
That's amazing. And can you speak about your time in DC? Because I know you for like being Georgia.
Yeah, I'm an Atlanta boy.
Yeah, so it was actually fun to learn that you actually we're here in DC. Like, what were you here for?
So during the early stages of my writing career, I was a part of an accelerator program called Halcyon that's based out of Georgetown. And as a part of that accelerator, I had to move to Georgetown. I lived in this giant mansion. So it's a $12 million mansion that was built by the second U.S. Secretary of State. And this Japanese pharmaceutical millionaire bought it and converted it into a co-working space for diverse entrepreneurs. So it was kind of like X-Men, but for business people. So I got to pop up and be a part of that. And once the program was over, I stayed in D.C. for a bit, and that's how I ended up here.
Wait a minute, hold up. How did you become a part of that program? That sounds huge.
The joke that I tell is I'm like, I'll find a check. You know, I like to hustle. When I have an idea, when I feel passionate about something, I get really passionate about finding the resources in order to make that thing happen. And Halcyon was just like a huge help. And as you can see, kind of introduced me to a new community.
That's absolutely fascinating. So let's talk about your book, Weirdo.
Yeah.
You are a huge advocate for mental health, especially with the youth, and I really appreciate that as a teacher because I work with so many young scholars that have battled mental health. Like when I tell you I have the school psychologist on speed dial, like that is very real, and I can only imagine for some people to speak on their own experience and their own battle with that. It's a bit of an obstacle. But so how are you able to really put your experience in a book and still like, because you're like so cheerful and pleasant to be around. So it's just like, I just imagine like, how were you able to, compile this into a graphic novel?
Well, mental health is something that I care a lot about, especially youth mental health. I think that every young person needs someone to come tap them on the shoulder and let them know that they're okay. Someone to kind of give them a path to walk down to become who they are. When we talk to kids, we often tell them things like, love yourself, be confident in yourself. But how am I supposed to do that when I don't know who I am? When you're in adolescence and you're developing that sense of identity, how do I love myself when I don't know myself? I don't know who that is. How do I commit to loving a person that's growing and shifting and changing? And Weirdo is intended to support kids through that, to help them identify the things that make them who they are in a way that still feels freeing and inviting. We talk about really heavy subjects, but it's a very victorious book. And the feedback that we've been getting kind of says that people feel the same.
And I first of all, I'm going to just say I bought the book today and for my scholars. And we were like here for a little bit, like an hour early. And already as we were like snacking on Subway, they already started reading the book. And like in the first few pages, like one of my students is like, this is already good. Like I'm already like invested in the story. And that's speaking to a lot, to be able to basically reach out to teenagers who have been kind of labeled of having like short attention spans, but be able to reach out to them and then immediately see like something great in it is like so talented. On top of being such a great storyteller, you're also quick too. Like,
Yeah.
just be able to like come out with book, because there's several other projects as well. Like, how are you able to basically beat writer's block?
So I think that for me, the reason I'm able to write so quickly isn't because I'm particularly like good at anything. I think it's just this magic that happens when you're walking in your purpose. I think I'm in alignment with exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So as a result, the results happen. The process takes place very quickly. During the occasions that I deal with writer's block, what I try to do is I analyze it. I say, man, I can't write. I'm stuck at this point. Well, what is it? Do you not know what happens next? Do you lack confidence in the quality of what you think should happen next? But what I always do is I start every story with a clear understanding of what I want that story to say. To me, writer's block means you don't know what the next line in the conversation is, what the next part of the story is. So to find that, I always reflect back to what is the core theme of the story? What is the thing that I'm communicating? And sometimes I got to take a nap as well. But after that, it tends to come through.
Yeah. And then you can't do anything if you're tired. Like, rest your brain, take some self-care, relax, and then it will all just flow just so easily. And then I also wanted to speak on like how much my students have just taken you in, because they're introverted and they were a little bit shy. It's like when I asked them like, hey, you want to, ask Tony some questions, they were a little scared. But even like in the Q&A, they were just like raising their hand and actually talking. And that speaks to the power of just like having you involved and invested in education, because normally they would just be kind of in themselves and in their bubble, but you created a space where they can be themselves. They can talk about their favorite show and their anime. They can speak on things that affect them. And you understand the struggles within education because you come from a household of educators.
Yeah.
And you even developed a curriculum based off your books.
Yeah.
And it's like, first of all, as a teacher, like, how can I get a hold of that curriculum?
Well, you got to shoot me an email.
Gotcha.
You go to the site. There's a little button you can click and say, "Hey, I want this." We're kind of processing it that way to make sure that it gets in everybody's hands.
Oh, that would be great, because I will definitely want that. Definitely need help with the lesson plans. And then I totally get where you're coming from, where like the state of education does need to change, because we kind of focus more on testing as opposed to building actual skills.
Yeah.
And so I think like working with you, because I already kind of emphasized that anyway, like I feel like we should focus more on student portfolio than test scores, and really, help them build for the future. So thank you again for just creating this lane and actually speaking up on it, because I feel like it's kind of like not really talked about, or kind of hush, or people steer away from it. And if there's anything else that you would like to say to the youth, anybody that wants to be an inspiring author, like what advice do you have for them?
I think the advice I would give to any author or someone that wants to be an author is to know your point of view. Anything that you write or that you create, each story that you tell is you saying something or communicating something to the world. So the best thing that you can do for yourself is find out what your point of view is. What do you believe? What is the thing that you feel like people need to hear? What do you have to say? And everything else kind of evolves from there.
Nice. And do you want to promote any other projects that you're doing? Because you do have some things.
No, all
in the
Weirdo.
works.
That's all I have. All Weirdo.
Yes, right.
All Weirdo. Am I writing other things? Yes. However, this thing, it's here right now. You go Weirdo by Tony Weaver Jr. There you go.
Right. And you can help it make it to the bestsellers list. It's already like #1 on Amazon, is it not?
We are the #1 new release on Amazon in children's biography comics. This is true.
So now all we got to do is make it to New York bestseller,
Yes.
and you can do that.
Yes.
All you got to do is just buy it.
Buy
It's
the book.
available at Phantom Comics,
Yeah.
on Amazon,
Barnes and Noble,
Barnes and Noble.
Books A Million, wherever books are. If you go in a bookstore and they don't have Weirdo, you got to give them a talk. You got to be like, "What are you doing?
Like, right,
Get
you're
it
missing
together."
out. Like, what are you doing? And let's promote more Black authors. There's only a
Agreed.
small percentage.
Yes.
Like this tiny.
Very
So we
tiny.
just need to, if we can make this successful, this will open up the lane to invite more Black authors. So what you waiting on? All right, and see how you guys glowed from that conversation. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.